Right, this period we are reflecting on death and mindfulness. Okay, so this is volume 48. Well, death is one thing we all have to deal with. It's very difficult to talk about, and it's not a very happy subject, but it's a very real subject. It's interesting to see how different cultures deal with death. And you find that many of the traditional cultures, the older cultures, no? Even if you like, you can say the Stone Age cultures, they don't have this idea that someone dies and then is totally gone. They always believe that this person who has passed away has moved on to another life somewhere. How that happens and what they become is very interesting. The different culture will have different stories. So in a sense, there's no fixed idea what happens when a person dies. Of course, in Buddhism, we do have our ideas too. My point is this: when we talk about death, it's not something negative. It is something real, and we have to face it sooner or later. Indeed, it is because death exists that makes life so precious. Right? I mean, if we can live for, don't say live forever, if you can live for a few hundred years, a lot of the world's economy will be affected, right? For example, insurance company will have to revise a lot of their rules, if you have insurance, right? And even healthcare also, will be more costly and so on. So one thing, life is very uncertain. Of course, we can say the average lifespan now, according to tradition, average lifespan in the Buddha's time is about 100 years. And before the Buddha comes into this world, he's reborn in what's the heaven called Tusita. So it is said that he will consider first the right place to be born, right time is very important. According to Buddhism, the Buddha's teaching, human lifespan is variable. Okay, for example, the lifespan of human beings can be as long as 100,000 years. Now, if the lifespan is so long, 100,000 years, people don't really worry about death. So there'll be no Buddhas. The Buddhas won't appear. Then there comes a time the life will get shorter. Now it's about 100 years. Then one of the suttas said that there'll come a time when people behave badly, negatively, so their lifespan gets shorter and shorter because they break the precepts. So as they break the precepts, the life became from 100 years, came to only 50 years. And there comes to a point where the lifespan is only 10 years. Can you imagine 10 years and they die? Of course, you may say, isn't that a very short time? Now, you must imagine relativity of time, because the sutta also says, at the time when people only live for 10 years, a girl or a woman who is 5 years old is ready for marriage, can have children already. Now, once you hear that kind of statement, that means we're talking about the metabolism goes faster, in other words. The body matures faster. So the lifespan is shorter, everything seems to go higher speed. All right? But the life is short. That means you can't do much, And then there is this war, battles, and people are killing each other. People are very scared. Many of them will run into the mountains and hide in caves. And then they realize that this killing is not good, so they stop killing. So that means they keep the first precept. Then the lifespan double, start increasing again back to 50, 100, 1,000, and up to 80,000, I think. And apparently that's the time the next Buddha will come, the future Buddha. But that's a long time more. No? So lifespan also is variable. Okay. So when we reflect on death, we're not talking about fear or something unhappy, ghosts and so on. We should look at death as something real, that our time is limited here. So what we do with this time is very important. That's the meaning here. We're talking about quality control, if you like. Right? So what am I doing in my life? I mean, don't talk about one lifespan, you know. In some countries, when you reach 50 years old, you retire. That was a time. Right now, they say 60 years old. But in Singapore, we try to make everybody useful. There's no such thing as retirement. And I think that's very, very true. It's very important, you know. I mean, of course, yeah, we are very happy to stop doing the kind of work that we are paid for because it's not really the kind of work we enjoy. We do it because we need to support ourselves. But imagine, you know, you suddenly don't do some kind of meaningful work. Right? I mean, what keeps us going in our daily life? We get up in the morning, we say, oh, I got to go to work, and then even the traffic jams are not that bad because once you come out of it, you get to work, and then you feel there's a sense of purpose. And suddenly you don't have that kind of pattern anymore. How would you feel? You feel a sense of emptiness, you know, right? Unless you have something else, right? People have hobbies, right? Sometimes it's art, sometimes music, sometimes teaching Dharma, you know. I mean, teaching Dharma is a very satisfying, very happy thing because the Buddha never retired, right? So he went on teaching up to 80 years old. Okay? So when it comes to Buddhism, when it comes to teaching in this way, you find there's no end to it. It's a life's work, you see. I know there are many professors, you know, scholars. They're very great scholars when they were alive. People respect them. But once they retire, you know, I mean, LKY Lee Kuan Yew once said that if you don't do anything, you got around 7 more years to go. So you have to make sure you do something. So many of them, they were trying to like do a bit of the work they have done, but most of them will go to their gardens and start weeding, but then they don't last very long after that. The mind starts deteriorating. Remember, when the mind is concerned, there's a very important saying. Your mind, use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. So that's your mind. So we have to keep on using our mind. I mean, just like our body, you know, if you don't exercise, you find you get sick more easily. And, you know, after the doctors have been telling me exercise is very important. I mean, for years, the doctor asked me to exercise, I have to lie and say, oh yeah, I do brisk walking, that kind of stuff. Then finally, I say, okay, I think I should go for exercise. And you have this good feeling, you see. All right, we don't need a nice body, we're too old for that, but you have this sense of energy, you know, zest, you're able to do whatever work needs to be done. Simple things like washing dishes, house chores are easily done. You'll find you can do it. And that keeps us going. And of course, having friends, talking to people are very helpful too. But in my line of work, it's difficult to have real friends because I do a lot of research, I do a lot of social comments, a lot of critical analysis. So in Asia, in Singapore especially, people don't like that very much. They don't like too much criticism. No? But that's the kind of thing I've been trained in when I went to the universities. They trained me how to study a text carefully and then look for mistakes and how to correct it. You know, so this is what I do with Buddhism. So there are thinking people who really see the value of Buddhism. They don't want to follow religion blindly. Yes, they like this kind of way, the kind of work we're doing, right? So in other words, if you spend your life doing this kind of very useful things, you wake up in the morning, you say, oh wow, this is wonderful, you know, I'm still alive and I have so many hours I can get back to my work. And you find your work is done. And something good, something big happens and you leave that behind for the future to use and to benefit from, right? So death has that value. It tells us, it gives us that motivation to do things, to do something really good, in other words, right? And of course, we cannot deny the fact that people do die. You know, my brother has passed away. Now my sister recently had some really bad diagnosis. She got worried. She thought she had some colorectal thing. And then she was healed. So I feel very relieved because if she goes, I'm next, the three of us. So I'm very happy that she's in good health now. But then many of my old friends, the happy note is those who have been nasty to me, they died first. I don't know why. Probably maybe you had some nasty mind, so that affects your health too, you see. So if you learn not to take all this criticism seriously, you have a positive mind, you don't use anger, I think you're more likely to be happier and live longer. In fact, I noticed that in my recent decades as I grow old, I tend to laugh more, tend to joke more, tend to be basically happy more. I mean, why should you worry so much? You don't have much time left, so better make all the fun you can and go happily, right? And that's a very important attitude to live. It's just like you are saying goodbye to your family, friends, to this house you've been staying with. Hey, I have to go, So whenever we say goodbye, we do it in a happy way. See? And the Thais, whenever there's a funeral, they're very happy, It's not that they're happy someone has died, rather they know this person is moving on, good rebirth, he has done a lot of good things, and then they do dana, they do all these good things in the name of the deceased, all right? But despite that, we still lose people. And this is, in a sense, more difficult to deal with than worrying about our own time, our own death. We lose dear ones. You find, I remember many of my old friends in primary school, for some strange reason in the last few years, we started contacting each other again. And you're in primary school, you see your friends are very young and small, very happy, and now they are, wow, really old. And you begin to wonder, how did this happen, Can this happen, you might say. They were so young and slim and thin, and now they are fat and ugly with no hair and so on. So, and then they talk different things now, they're more concerned about life, basically, and death too. So, it is something we must take as a reflection. This is very important. Reflection means it shows us the truth that we are also part of it. So today's study is about that kind of reflection. All right. So on page 126, the title is Visākhā Natta Sutta. The discourse on Visākhā's granddaughter. Udana 8.8, right? Very easy to remember, 8.8. Chapter 8, Sutta 8. The theme is endearment brings sorrow, all right? Right, this is one of those sad things. We are taught to love people, but when you love people, you miss them when they move on. So the idea of love here is to do all you can while the person is alive. And then when the person has passed on, you have these happy memories. So you can tell all these stories to others. Happy memories, right? So that's the meaning here. Just because you love someone need not be, you become very sad when the person dies. You know someone's time is up, but you have happy memories, okay? So this is one of the things I often tell people, especially husbands and wives, when their loved one has passed away. I said, now's the time to remember all the happy things you have done together, right? So that's the reality. So here we have this lady. Visākhā is the name of one of the most intelligent lay follower of the Buddha, the lady Visākhā. She is a lay person, she's not a nun. She's very wealthy, very famous, and very devoted to the Buddha. Now, she loves children, and she has many of them. And here's the story of one of her granddaughter. And this granddaughter, she loves very much, and one day the granddaughter passed away. So let's see what happens. Now look at the translation, page 129. Visākhā Natta Sutta. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in Megara's mother's mansion in Eastern Park outside Sāvatthī. By the way, this Megara's mother is Visākhā herself. Because she's called Megara's mother. Megara is the father-in-law, because she taught something very wise to the father-in-law, and the father-in-law is so proud of her and calls her mother because she's very wise. And then she builds this house, this mansion, and the Buddha was living there outside Sāvatthī in the eastern park. At that time, the beloved and charming granddaughter of Visākhā, Megara's mother, passed away. Right, so here we have a young person who passed away. We say predeceased. Then Visākhā, Megara's mother, with wet dress and wet hair, in the middle of the day, approached the Blessed One. Having gone up to him, saluted him and sat down at one side. So here we have an idea how the Indians in the Buddha's time mourn the dead. They probably go to the river, just to dip themselves. So wet hair, wet clothes. Of course, it's very sad. And where do we go when we are sad? We go to the monastery. We see the teacher. We see the Buddha. Sitting thus at one side, the Blessed One said this to the lady Visākhā. So as she was sitting at one side, where, Visākhā, have you come from in the middle of the day, coming here with wet clothes and wet hair? And then she replied, she says, my beloved and charming granddaughter Bhante has passed away. That's why I'm here with wet clothes and wet hair in the middle of the day. Right? So she's mourning. Right? All right, so this is the story. So this is a time when the Buddha will teach her something and also teach us something. So this is called counseling. This is called death counseling. Then the Buddha straight away starts and says, section 6, would you, Visākhā, want as many children and grandchildren as there are people in Sāvatthī? Right? So you ask the favorite question of Visākhā, so would you like to have as many children as there are people in this town? And then Visākhā replies, yes, blessed Bhante, I would want as many children and grandchildren as there are people in Sāvatthī. All right? Now that's why she feels sad, because her granddaughter passed away, right? And she loves children. Then the Buddha continues, section 7. But Visākhā, how many people in Sāvatthī pass away each day? I say, it's a very big city, So how many people pass away every day? 10 people, Bhante, pass away each day, right? So here we have the Indian style of talking. They give lots of numbers, 10, 9, 8 people every day, 7 people, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. At least one person passes away every day in Sāvatthī. So this is an average between 1 and 8 people passing away every day. Well, it's not a very big city actually, 8 people. If you consider like Singapore, I think much more, right? Maybe, I don't know, hard to say, Right? I mean, undertaking is one business you'll never go out of business, Right? I remember again this when I was in England, it's a Buddhist community there. They have work, they have what's called right livelihood, businesses and so on. So we were sitting down discussing one day, so they were discussing, they said, what kind of business can we start that is sure to be profitable, that would not be a loss? So at once I replied, they all are Angmo, foreigners. I mean, I was the foreigner there actually. They were mostly English and Europeans. So I said, well, what else is there? There are only 2 businesses where you will never fail. You're sure to succeed. All right? One is the food business, because they have very good cooks there. So if you have good food, you cook, you're sure to do well. The other one is even better. It's undertaking. You take care of the dead. That one also, you will never fail. So they're looking at me, they say, how does this Chinaman know all these things? I said, yes, because we are Chinaman, I said. We are very good in business. So there you are, okay? So we have this, so many people dying in one day. So imagine in Singapore how many undertaking businesses there are, and they're very upper class now, the way they dress, the way they talk, wow, it's like some university graduates, and maybe they are university graduates. So in one day, lots of people die. So this is the Buddha's idea. So it's trying to show Visākhā that so many people dying one day. You have a lot of children. Can you imagine what's going to happen? So this is the conclusion, section 10. What do you think, Visākhā? Would there be any time when you would be without wet clothes or wet hair? Right, I say, if you have so many children, the whole city, will there be a single day when your clothes will be dry? Right? Because every day you'll be mourning somebody, right? So Visākhā replies, surely not, Bhante. And then, she's very easy to convince, she's full of faith. So she says, enough, Bhante, of my having to do with so many children and grandchildren. 12. Those, Visākhā, who have 100, who are dear, have 100 sorrows. Those who have 90 who are dear will have 90 sorrows. So if you have 80 loved ones, you have 80 sorrows. You have 70 loved ones, 70 sorrows, and so on, 60, 50, 40, and so on. And if you have one person who's dear, you still have one sorrow, right? So because we care for people, this is our nature. So, but here, number 13, the Buddha says, those who have none who are dear have no sorrow. Sorrowless are they, dust-free. Without any despair are they, I declare. Okay, there will be a problem here. If you're a lay person, you say, if I have no one, I also will be sad, you see. Right? So this is a problem, it's a dilemma, you see. You have someone you love, you also feel sad when the person dies. You have no one to love, you also feel sad because you have no one to love, you see. So either way, we feel a sense of sadness. That's life. So here, who is the Buddha talking about? The Buddha is talking about himself. You see? The Buddha is saying, okay, here I am, okay? The monks, the good monks, do not have any affairs or attachment to anyone. But even as the Buddha says that, there are many monks and nuns who care for the Buddha. And when the Buddha passes away, you find those who are not awakened, those who are very attached to the Buddha, they're very sad. If you look at my translation of the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, I think it's volume 9, SD 9 in the Sutta Discovery. In that translation, there is a Japanese painting. It's a colorful painting of the Buddha's passing away. This Japanese artist is very good, very detailed. He draws the Buddha lying down in the center, passing away, and there are monks sitting down, meditating. Those are the arahats. And there are monks who are crying. And then there are lay people who are crying. Even the animals are crying. Lots of animals die, the animals are very sad. So it's a very beautiful picture in a sense. So here you find, if our mind is not mentally developed, we will feel very sad. The mourning will be very deep. Okay? So in the case of the Buddha, he teaches the monks not to be attached even to the Buddha. Because when the Buddha teaches impermanence, that means he also is impermanent. He has to pass away. And when the Buddha passes away, that's the final proof that his teaching is true. So it's not something sad or failure. It's rather, it's the truth, the true reality. Right? So in this sense, the Buddha means that those who have none who are dear, they have no sorrow. At the same time, elsewhere the Buddha teaches that we need to show loving kindness. We need to show unconditional love to others. Right? Notice, unconditional. Unconditional love is different. Unconditional love or metta means I accept you as you are. I accept you just as you are. Right? So, like a mother, the mother's love is unconditional. The mother always accepts the child as he is, whether good or bad. The mother still loves the child. But remember, when we say unconditional, we also must remember human beings cannot live forever, and that's also part of us, which must be accepted. And we pass away too, right? So, unconditional love means we accept this person totally as impermanent beings also, all right? So the idea here is for lay people, if you have loved ones, then you have to remind yourself, how am I treating this person? I have to accept this person just as he or she is, so that in this life I can make this person happy. And I have only so much time to do that, right? So it is very wise to show all the kindness and happiness that you need to while the person is alive. Don't have this funny way of showing respect to the dead, elaborate, very grand ceremony, very costly. But when the poor man was alive, you didn't even give a single cent to that person. That would be rather sad, right? So it's better to treat a person well while he's alive and give a cheap funeral rather than neglect the person while he's alive and give a grand funeral, Because the funeral is for yourself, not for the dead, right? So that would be rather sad. So life is more valuable. That's the meaning here. Okay? Then the Buddha closes with 2 verses. Then the Blessed One, understanding the significance of this, on that occasion, uttered this udana. Udana is a joyful, uplifting verse. No? Oh yes, one more point to note. The Buddha tells Visākhā, if you do not hold anyone dear, you will not suffer. You might say this is a strong statement, right? Now the Buddha has to make this strong statement to balance up Visākhā's attachment to her children. Because she has hundreds of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, right? So the Buddha is telling her to balance up her emotions, in other words, okay? I don't think it's possible for her to totally have no feelings for all the hundreds of children, grandchildren, and so on that she has, right? So the idea is for her to be more calm and accept reality. All right, so these are the 2 verses that the Buddha speaks for her. Whatever grievings or lamentings or sorrows in countless ways in the world, they arise dependent on what is there. When there is nothing there, they exist not. Right? So whenever we are attached to something, we will suffer. If we are not attached, then we won't suffer. All right? Let's not talk about people. Let's talk about things. Let's say money. Okay. Many years ago, there was this Lehman Brothers crash. Remember, it's a big problem, no? And a lot of people lost money. But I have one very good friend. He also lost a lot of money. But he's been coming to Sutta class like this very often, So he's a very kind person. So he came up to me and said, this financial crash is really bad. I lost a lot of money, But I'm so happy I learned the Dharma. Because I only lost money. But I didn't lose friends. I didn't lose my sanity. I can always make more money, right? So he is very positive, right? He didn't allow money to define his life. Money is important, yes. But money is a servant. Money is not the master. Then you are truly rich, right? Because you are master of yourself, right? I mean, recently even Bill Gates tried to show that he's not really rich. No? I don't know whether he's guilty or anything about that. He was telling a story. I don't know, it is his story or someone else's, someone telling a story about him. He said that long ago, once he went to this, he probably came up from the airport or something. He went to the newspaper man, news seller. He wanted to buy newspaper. But he had no change. He's got so much money, all big notes, I suppose. He had no small change. So he said, "Oh dear, I'm sorry, I got no small change." Then the newspaper man said something surprising. He said, "Sir, it's okay. You can keep this free of charge. I can always, my profit will cover this small loss anyway. Please keep it, And so he goes away. And years pass. He came back to the same place, and he met this news agent again. And then, now this time I'm not sure how true, again he's got no small change, big notes, all right? So again, he wanted to get newspaper, and then this time Bill Gates said, "I think I'll give you something extra." Again, the news agent said, No, I don't want your money. Then Bill Gates asked, "Do you know who I am?" And the news agent said, "I know who you are. You're Bill Gates. You're very rich. But I don't want your money." Because I'm able to give you a newspaper. How many people can do that? So in that way, I'm richer than you. Of course, that was a lesson for Bill Gates, you see, where he has got money, but he can't pay for the newspaper. So he has made this newspaper man feel very rich. He said, "Wow, see, I gave this newspaper to this richest man in the world, You couldn't pay for it, you see." So that was it is a story he told anyway, perhaps out of humility, So it is what we do, how we look at money. Remember, money is what money does. Money is not how much you have, because how much you have, in the end, you don't own it, You can only spend so much, right? People who are poor keep thinking that they can never do something they want to do. There are many ways of doing what you want to do, what makes you happy with little money or with what you have, and being really happy. You see? For example, as you know, in the Philippines, you got how many? 900 million people, is it? You see, the poor are always happy. Well, I would say generally happy, rather. They're never hungry. Some of them, you see, they're poor, but they're quite hefty looking. They always share food, right? And to them, having friends is very important. They have big families is another thing. So they're always together. They have this amazing fellowship. There's no such thing as feeling lonely there, right? So they may be poor, but they're truly happy. And when you talk to them, they're very friendly. They're very interactive. Right? So this is where being wealthy is how you think, how you feel. So a life that is wealthy is a life of generosity, of love, basically, right? Okay, now let's look at the second verse. "Therefore, happy, sorrow-free are they, those who have nothing dear in the world." Notice, in the world. "Therefore, wishing for the sorrowless, the dust-free, one should not hold anything dear in the world." Right? Things of the world belong to the world. You can't take it with you. You can use it for a while, borrow it, but it's not yours. Elsewhere, the Buddha told his left-hand monk, Moggallana, he says, "Moggallana, nothing in this world is yours. You can't take it with you, so let it go." All right? Whatever we have, we are borrowing, so to speak. Okay? The most important reflection is this. What is the most important thing to us right now? It's our breath, right? Our breath is our life. We breathe in, we breathe out. We live. That's our life. Our life is our breath. Imagine you breathe in and you say, "Wow, this is my air. I don't want to give it back. I want to keep this air." You do that, you'll suffocate. Even air, which is your life, your breath, you cannot hold it back. You have to give back this breath. You take in, you give back. So our life is like that. In the world, we take, we give. We take, we must give back. Give and take, we say, right? So give and take has a very deep meaning in Buddhism. It's not just giving things. Give and take also means to forgive others, to be kind, to be generous, right? So because we own nothing in this world. This is what the Buddha means. Right? In this world, you own nothing. So when you try to possess things of this world, then you will suffer. Right? So this is a very simple verse, but the meaning is very deep. So do reflect on this, right? Let us close with a short reflection. Right, always remember when we reflect on death, we are talking about quality of life. Impermanence means we only have so much time with the people that are important to us. Or if we are facing difficult people, it is still impermanent. Time will pass. When we have good things, time also will pass. Time seems to pass faster. And when we are caught in something bad, it's still actually the same time, but the way we think makes we feel as if time is slowing down. This is how our mind works. But if we are happy all the time, living in the moment, then we'll see time moving just as time would move. That everything change and we learn something wonderful from it, and our life become even more precious, better. Other people can also learn and benefit from us. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. By the power of this karma, may we be well and happy. May our loved ones be well and happy. May we see the wisdom of the path of the Buddha in this life itself. Above all, may we have the strength and wisdom to aspire to stream winning in this life itself. May those who are practicing the Dharma too quickly attain the path, and may those who are lost find the true path in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.